Okay guys, welcome back to the leadership debates for the SU elections 2018. We've made it to the president, the final debate of the evening, and we've got one candidate who's dropped out this evening. Lewis Brown hasn't attended the debate tonight, so as a result we've only got Tanki. We'll rattle through the questions with him. If you've got anything that you'd like us to ask Tanki, please do send them in to, on the Facebook comments and we'll make sure to get them across to him. Tanki, yeah, you've got a couple of minutes just to introduce yourself.
Hello everyone, my name is Tanki. I'm the current Vice President for Services and Communication. I've graduated from the University of Essex with a law degree in July last year. And the reason why I'm running for the role of President is because I'm very passionate about our Students' Union and I think I can implement change that will impact everyone of our community.
Fantastic, thank you very much, Tanki. So our first question is a little bit different. So the President is a role which demands a little bit more than just people skills and being able to talk to people. What do you have in terms of entrepreneurial spirit?
I think it's a very interesting question. To be frank with you, I think last year I would have said none at all. I've currently been a Vice President for Services and Communication for now 6 or 7 months. And as well, I've been a trustee of the organisation for now 7 or 8 months. I think that first of all, as Vice President for Services and Communication, that there's a lot of emphasis on Vice President to obviously bring this sort of element of representing the voice of students within our services, but there's as well the financial aspect of it. So, for example, all the money that we make as a union, as an organisation for our services, will go back into other services, for example, society, sports, and so on. And I think it's very interesting to sort of find out the right balance between making sure that we represent the voice of our students and we put on events or showcase or for example, put prices at a certain level, but then at the same time balance it to make sure that we can invest the rest of that money in the union and to make sure that societies can still be running volunteering and our different campuses. I think on top of that, I'm a trustee of the organisation, so I'd say that as a trustee and especially as chair of union performance, you've got a very big insight into the sort of financial aspect of the organisation, not only on the services that I'm involved in as a Vice President, but as well all the other aspects of the union about budgets and making sure that you find the right balance between providing and offering what students want and students need, but as well making sure that we make sure that the union is still financially feasible. And I think that's what I said in terms of sort of entrepreneurship mind and make sure that we always find the right balance.
Fantastic. So transport is an issue which almost every student has an opinion on. We all have seen the cars that are piled up outside campus and on the road and everywhere pretty much you could possibly park a car. Tanki, as President, if you were to be elected, what would you do to address the issues that we currently have over transport and car parking on campus?
So actually it's very interesting that you've asked me this question. As I said, I'm currently the Vice President for Services and Communication and it's something I'm very heavily involved in this year. Very good news is the fact that the university is bringing within the next 5 years 2 new parking. That will be an increased amount of spaces. As well, it's making sure that we always find the right balance between obviously making sure that all our students can park, but as well making sure that we can find the right sustainability format. I think another important element is always making sure that our students come first. So for example, we've had recently controversy and debates about applicant days and applicants coming in and meanings that our students had to go to the park and ride in Colchester and they were sort of second to the applicants. I think that as President, one of the things I'll make sure is obviously always represent the voice of our students across campus, make sure that even for little events like applicant days, when you think about it, it's only a day, but this day can be very disruptive. Furthermore, I think another element in terms of transport and parking, I want to work on sustainability. There's lots of different sustainability approach that can be looked at. For example, buses, cycling, and walking. And I think those are things that, as a union, we should take a stance and make sure that we move it forward and that we're very strongly convinced and strongly behind the sustainability movement to make sure that we make an impact.
Fantastic, thank you very much. So just before I move on to the next question, I'm going to appeal again to anybody on Facebook that might have a question for Tanki. Please do get them in because we've got plenty of time so we can ask him anything that you'd like to find out. So the next question is about leadership. As leader of the union, it's very important that you've got that ability to be able to rally all the students behind you and get everybody kind of under your leadership. What experience, Tanki, do you have as a leader, and why are you the right person to lead a union full of thousands of people?
I think first of all, I'll go to prior to being a vice president, I've been president and vice president of societies. I've been involved in different associations when I was back home in France, where I had a role of directors and leader within those associations, and then obviously the societies. On top of that, I think a very important thing is, since I've been elected vice president, you take on a role of leader. You're here to represent the voice of students, and I think that that will be the core of why I would be a great leader, is the fact that you've got to be ready to fight for the voice of students, and sometimes you've got to walk into meetings where you are fighting on your own for the voice of students, and to make sure that the voice of students is heard. And it's always a case of making sure that you don't compromise too much, and you don't always compromise. It's making sure that people value your opinion, but also value the opinions you defend. And in my case, it'd be the opinion of 15,000 students. And I think that I'll state here, I think that as a university and as a SU, sometimes we forget that there's 15,000 students, 15,000 people also have opinion, and it's always the case of bringing those 15,000 people together and making sure that all together this voice of heard. Yeah.
Brilliant, thank you very much. So now we have got a Facebook question come in. So this one's come from Grace. Grace, thank you for sending that one in. So the question comes in and says, in past years, on-campus accommodation was offered to all first-year students, as well as third years and international students and students returning from years abroad. However, it seems that in recent times, it's become a struggle to even house just first-year students. How will you be addressing this?
I think that that links in a wider discussion. So the university obviously has decided to increase the amount of students that will come in the university, meaning that the influx of first year has increased and has reached a point where it goes beyond the capacity of the accommodation on campus, and obviously, for example, with the COPs coming in on soon, it will obviously be helpful, making sure that we can tackle this issue. But I think that not only looking at this problem is always making sure, obviously for returning students, obviously for international students, obviously for students that should live on campus, for example, for mental health issues, is making sure that those rights that they've had in the past and this sort of priority list is kept. But it's not only looking at the accommodation aspect of it, it's also making sure that with the university growing more and more and more and more, we don't lose all those little things that made Essex so great, and not losing, for example, the individuality and how excellent our education was because of the amount of students that come in. And I think this is a very good reminder to make sure that as a union moving forward, and even now, we keep on fighting for obviously the rights of students, and making sure that their voice is heard, but as well make sure that in the long-term plans of the university, the voice of the Students' Union is heard, to make sure that we can tackle similar issues.
Interesting, thank you very much. So we've got another question coming from Facebook. So this one's coming from Matt, and he's asked, do you see anything that could be done so that Rebel doesn't slowly get swallowed by the SU to get used for their purposes and continues to become an amazing independent media organisation, but while still getting the proper funding from the SU?
Yeah, of course. I think that it was Josh O'Connor who decided that we had three different branches of media, and he brought them all together into Rebel, and I think that it's fantastic that today we've got such a student-led media on our campus. That being said, I do agree that sometimes we tend to forget as a union, and I talk, for example, myself as a vice president, we tend to forget of the impartiality and independence of Rebel. I think that being said, I wouldn't say that I'm worried today for Rebel. I think that it's a very strong media outlet, in the sense that every single person that has a role within Rebel is a student, and I think that it's even emphasising even more those responsibilities upon the students, to make sure that, for example, the heads of every branch understands and backs the idea that they're responsible for the content that is published, and that regardless of how much pressure, for example, the Students' Union can put on them and sort of force them to do, the final word always comes down to students, and it's making sure that it comes from the roots of our membership and that they are the one who wants to publish elements, and it's not the sort of other way around where the Students' Union is interested to have a story published and will force it down Rebel.
Fantastic, thank you very much. So there are some of the different questions we've taken from Facebook this evening. We're now just going to offer Tanki a section of time so he can just offer his final thoughts and give you guys a reason why he is the best candidate for the job. Tanki, your final thoughts?
So first of all, thank you for listening to me. What I'll say is I believe I'm the best person for the role because obviously my experience as a vice president and I sort of elaborate more during my manifesto bits because as well my past experience within societies. I think one of the things I'll say is I'm extremely passionate about the Students' Union. I think I've been a very good vice president this year, implementing a lot of my manifesto, and this manifesto will be done by the end of the year. I think what is important today is we've started a project as a sabbatical team this year, which is student representation. One of the main reasons why I was running is to make sure that we increase student representation, to make sure that the voice of students is not only heard through offices and through different little groups across the unions that have been elected, but it's making sure that we can bring all those voices together, and that as a union and as a membership we can tie in all our efforts to make sure that we have the best Students' Union, that every voice is heard, that marginalised group, for example, like mature students, sometimes BME students are heard, and as well it's focusing on very important elements such as mental health, which is still a massive issue within our community, within our university, and I think this is something that has been talked by all candidates, but it is something I really want to focus on. And finally as well, housing problems, which ties in obviously with the mental health elements of it, is the fact that make sure that we provide good landlords to our students, that they know what their rights are, and obviously to make sure that they've got a fantastic time. I think that we've got a unique opportunity as a Students' Union to enhance the educational experience and the student experience of our members, and to make sure as well that their voice is heard and represented. And this is what I want to focus on as a president. Why you should vote for me, because it's a very important role. It's something that should not be lightly taken. It should be. It's a very responsibility. It's not a privilege. It's a responsibility. It's something that is very important. So I'll focus on student experience, educational experience, and making sure that your voice is represented. Vote for me.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for joining us, Tanki. That's the end of the President debate, and that's the end of the debates overall. We've had 2 days. We've had some really good debates. We've got some really good, interesting ideas from our different candidates. Thank you very much for joining us at home, as well as thank you very much to all of our candidates that have been involved in our different debates. We've been Rebel. This has been the Leadership Debates. Make sure you go and vote over the next couple of weeks. Thank you very much for joining us.